Hi everybody, it's Lynne Forsythe here, and I have to tell you I am over the moon excited to be a part of the Ranger Melt Art Mania that's going on in the month of May. When I was asked by Tim to participate in this, I didn't sleep that night, and all I could think about was what I wanted to create. And if any of y'all are familiar with anything that I make, you know that everything comes with a flower. And so I opted to create this canvas and all of these beautiful Color Me Crazy flowers that started out white have been colored, and then they were dipped in beeswax. So that's the process that I'm going to share with you today. All the leaves and all of this goodness right in here have all been dipped in beeswax, along with this absolutely gorgeous butterfly. Do you see that? Isn't that amazing? So anyways, without further ado, let me show you how I created these so that you too can join in the Melt Art Mania. So the first thing I did was to collect some of the items that I wanted to use on my canvas. And I chose two of the brand new printed Darjeeling wild blossoms in the shades of white. So these come in a 4-pack, and then I chose one of the medium ones, and I believe that these come in a 9-pack. One of the wild butterflies. Then I have these beautiful aqua beauties that came from the Textured Elements collection, and they are the minis in teal. And then I have my old-time favorite of the mini pearl daisies. These are what I constitute as white noise. They're those little filler flowers that you put in that just makes the entire cluster look amazing. So let's get going here. The first order of business is on the back of these. They come with these foam dots, and for the sake of because we're going to place them in the hot beeswax, I just prefer to take them off, and then after it's all cooled down, we can put those back on and use them because we'll need them for the height in the cluster. And what I've chosen to use to color my flowers with is I have some Delusions ink spray, and this one is squeezed orange. And then I have some Distress ink re-inkers. I have Wild Honey and Fired Brick. Now the Fired Brick I'm going to use in this form. But the Wild Honey, what I've done is I've taken a mister and I put a dropper full of the Wild Honey in the mister and then added some water, diluting it to the level that I wanted. So therefore now I've created my own spray mist, Wild Honey, from my Distress re-inkers. So I'm going to take and put a little dab will do you with this because this is the concentrated form of the ink. So we have the Fired Brick, we have the Wild Honey mixed, and we have our squeezed orange. Personally, I find that everything always works better when you have a hint of water. Water is the great color mover. So I like to start out by just gently spritzing my flowers just to give them a little bit of moisture so that they will really take in the color. And for this one now I'm going to use the Wild Honey spritz that I've created, and I'm just going to give this flower a nice little spritz of the Wild Honey. And I'm going to, using my paintbrush, and I'm just going to put a puddle of water here on my craft mat. Going to get that, and I'm going to pick up just a little bit of that Fired Brick, and I'm going to put this on the end. Now, I don't know if you can see what this is doing, but when you put that on there, it just begins to wick right into those flowers. Are you seeing that? Isn't that stinking amazing? This is why I love to color flowers. Okay, so we're just going to go all the way around the flower. And there's no right way and there's no wrong way to do this. Okay, and there we have our flower. And now to help this move just a little bit more, I'm just going to give a spritz with some water on here. And then you're just going to see that color just saturate into the petals. And you also get multiple levels because some of it was a little more concentrated. Then you can actually go in and go right around the center of the bead that's in on the flower. And now I want to dry my flower. While I was drying my flower, I realized that there were some white spots that were showing, and that really wasn't to my liking, so I've spritzed a puddle of the Wild Honey Distress Reinker on my craft mat, and I'm just going to go in and paint these petals so there's not quite as much white showing. Actually, I think I'm just going to spritz the whole back of this flower. Here is my finished flower. Now, the one thing that you're going to notice is when you're drying these flowers, that the color that is on the flower is going to change as it dries, and it gets a little deeper and darker because I was actually thinking that maybe this was just a little too bright for my liking, and I was going to go in and just put a little bit of the fired brick around some of the edges of the petals. But as it was drying, I noticed that it was actually taking on this really beautiful color. But you still can go in and do this because now it's dry and that color's not going to move quite as much, and it's just going to give you that nice dark, almost burnt look around the edges of the petals. Now, I do have to say I'm not a very patient person when it comes to drying, and I do a lot of layers with really wet stuff. So what I'll do is I'll turn on my oven to 200 degrees and put an aluminum cookie sheet in there, and then I just throw these flowers in because one of the important thing is going to be is that these flowers are totally dry before we put them in this hot wax. If not, we could have a little bit of an issue. So I'm going to pop these in the oven to dry. So I just finished spritzing my Darjeeling Wild Butterfly here from Petaloo with my Wild Honey Distress Reinker mixture. And I'm going to use a little bit of the Vibrant Turquoise Delusions ink spray along with some more of my little full strength fired brick here. And I'm just going to take this and I'm going to go around the edges of my butterfly. And because it's wet with the wild honey, it's seeping right in there. And now I'm going to use a little bit of that fired brick. Okay, and there you go. Look at that. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? Who would have thunk? All right, so we got to make sure our butterfly is dry also before we go dipping in the melt pot. So I've chosen to use clear beeswax from the Melt Art line in my melting pot. Now, when you are using beeswax in a melting pot, you do not want to put it directly into the melting pot. You want to make sure you have a project pan because beeswax can be flammable and that would just not be a good creative day. So make sure that you put your project pan in. I typically kind of crank it up to 300 until I see that my wax has melted, and then I turn it down to about 180. So here are my flowers. They're fresh out of the oven. So now the dipping process begins. So I take a pair of tweezers, and this is one of the textured blooms that I had pulled apart, and I'm just going to take this and kind of just roll it around in the wax, kind of drip it to the side to get the excess off. And you do want to make sure that you're placing your dipped blooms on a surface that you don't care is going to get ruined, because otherwise, you'll just have wax everywhere, and I can tell you from experience, it does not come off counters very well. All right, so now we're going to dip some more of the flowers. Before it totally sets up, you can kind of go in and manipulate it and make your flower look however you want to. Like with this one, I want it to be a little more upward, a little more squinched together. So I'm going to kind of do that. So then when the wax totally sets up, it will hold that shape. This one I'm going to... And if you find you got too much wax on it, just use your heat tool, melt some of it off. And now for the rest of the flowers. So as it's cooling, I'm just going to kind of manipulate the petals on my flowers here. Be careful, it can be kind of similar to hot glue on your fingers. So I'm using these Chantilly velvet leaves, and they're gorgeous. But what I always like to do, just because I'm all about dimension, is I like to fold that, and with my little tiny attacher, just staple that, and look at the difference in that leaf. Okay, here's one, here's the other. Which is better? This one? This one. I like that one. All right, so we're going to do that to 3 leaves. And holding the stapled end, just going to dip it in the beeswax. Shaking off the excess. So here are all of our beautiful little flowers and butterfly. Oh my gosh, look at that. All dipped in the beeswax, the clear beeswax. And now what I'm going to do is I have I have a couple different colors here. I have forest green, which I'm going to use on the leaves, a little bit of perfect bronze, some perfect gold, and kiwi. And what I'm going to do is, these are perfect pearls, if I didn't say that already. And I'm just going to take a paintbrush and dip them in there. And this stuff just sticks to the beeswax. And what it's going to do is it's just going to add a level of shimmer to the flowers. See? Look at that. Can you see? How pretty is that? And on my butterfly, I'm going to use, whoa, almost in it, some of the perfect gold. And I'm just brushing it on there, and it sticks in the wax. And just adds one more level of coolness to this butterfly. So anyways, that is how I made the pieces parts that go on my canvas. You can go to my blog to see a product list of the items that I used on my canvas. And I hope you've enjoyed my tutorial today. And as always, have an amazing creative day.